Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, so first and foremost, have to give out a huge shout out to JX on YouTube. They do these excellent interviews and they have tons of content creators on there, and occasionally they also have Kabam employees. And this past interview, I think it came out about 9 hours ago, they had Kabam John on. And it was definitely well worth the listen. I recommend everybody go check out the interview in full, and I will leave a link to that interview in description. Give Jay a sub. They're definitely an awesome channel to follow. They typically focus more on like lore and the story side of Marvel Coins of Champions, and yes, they also do these awesome interviews. I have been on there. There's an interview with me. You know, many people that you will recognize, like Legend Taters, have been there, and so on and so forth, and multiple of Kabam employees. Now, there were actually quite few revelations that are definitely news and video worthy, and unfortunately I must start with one that is slightly more negative. So I'm gonna play out the clip here, or the bit from the interview, and then we're gonna go ahead and discuss that one.
All right. Now you said so. Obviously, your name is like the balance designer, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the balancing system? We had kind of an update to it with Black Cat and Scorpion not being balanced. That they've been looked at to be pretty well. So can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the way that it was launched, there was a lot of misconceptions with it initially, and really, if we were to look at 2021, the only characters that I would consider really up for, I guess, a nerf. I think there's a bunch of characters we could have probably considered for a buff, but the only characters I would consider for a nerf with this new process would be somebody like Hercules and Kitty, where they're actually performing much more than we would have anticipated.
And this is the most important thing. So if balancing program was live in 2021, according to the Kabam employee themselves, our Hercules and our Kitty Pryde would have been nerfed. And those are, you know, definitely the best champions of 2021. Now, they also say that obviously, you know, they would have balanced up Psycho Man, which again, they did in a form of like an official buff. And nobody cares. It just doesn't matter. The champion's still trash. You know, I'm sure that every champion is somebody's favorite and all that, but objectively, from competitive standpoint, Psycho Man is absolutely irrelevant and non-existent. And obviously, then, you know, we have Super Skrulls who's decent on defense, but we have plethora of mediocre characters here as well. And that really infuriated this comment when, again, there was a lot of misconception. No, nobody misconceived anything. The fact that you would buff more champions than you would nerf, according to yourselves, is completely irrelevant, because guess what? About 80% of the champions are not that important in this game. If you take a look at all of the champions in this game, you know, about 80% of them, at least 70% of them, are kind of novelties. Are kind of champions that, you know, yeah, some people like them, some people will rank them, but they're not really all that important from perspective of that you have to have them in order to progress or in order to push forward. Majority of the champions in game, you know, you rank kind of optionally. There are the, you know, top 10%, top 20% of the champions that are like really, really good. And those are the ones that we are focused on. Those are the ones that we rely on, and those are the ones that we use the most. There are situations, nodes, or, you know, combination kind of challenges like Eternity of Pain. All of a sudden, I don't know, a Loki can shine, or where all of a sudden somebody like, I don't know, Mysterio shines. You know, yes, Mysterio has a place in its game, but, you know, whether he gets balanced slightly upwards or downwards will hardly affect many people. Defensively, he's a relevant champion. Offensively, not that much. He's good, but he's not where the focus lies. And according to their like own admission now, to what Kabam John said, Kitty Pryde and Hercules would be nerfed, and then we would get slightly better Mangog, we would get slightly better Kraven, we would get slightly better Psycho Man, we would get slightly better I don't know, Purgatory or America Chavez. The problem is that it's just not worth it. That is the exact problem. You know, I'm sure that if somebody would tell you today, we will nerf Hercules, but we will buff these 10 shit champions so they're a little less shit, you'd say, no, I don't want that to happen. I don't care about those 10 champions. Even if you buff them slightly, I will not care about those 10 champions. I care about my Hercules, for instance. And that is the exact problem. Where touching a single character from the top tiers of the meta will immediately impact many, many more players than if they would buff or nerf somebody like Psychoman. There are probably like, I don't know, 50 players in the world that have Psychoman ranked. If you upgrade, maybe you're gonna get 100. Or I don't know the exact numbers, obviously I'm just spitballing here, but there can't be many people who have, I don't know, rank 3 or rank 4 Psychoman. But there are really thousands upon thousands of players who do have a rank 3 or 4 Hercules. So touching one of those champions immediately has way more impact, and it holds players way more back than any kind of moderate to mild buff on an average champion. And again, in case of a Psychoman, he's a champion that effectively got balanced up, wasn't he? He's a champion that did get a buff from these same people. So it stands to reason that if he would be a part of a balancing program, that's pretty much what they would have done to balance Psychoman up. Now, anybody today cares about Psychoman? No. Not really. And that's with him balanced up. And now they are asking us to be okay or be at peace with the fact that they might buff 3 Psychomans, but they would have nerfed Hercules. It's, again, one of those things that is easy to understand why Kabam would like it, but there is no way in hell anybody from the players should be okay with it. Or at least should look at it and think it's like a fair deal, a fair price. Again, according to themselves right now, in this interview, they are saying, if balancing program would be live, we would have nerfed Kitty and Hercules. And then further on, they're asking us to trust them and stuff like that. Like, why? Why? I know it has not happened yet where balancing program downtunes a champion. But I promise you, as soon as the first insane champion gets downtuned, if they downtune Galen, for instance, 6 months down the line, there's going to be huge waves of commotion community. We saw what happened when they touched a mere synergy with Scarlet Witch. And imagine if they, 5 months later, just, say Galen's doing too well. Better than we intended. And just click it out. And that's, still is a very big part of the problem. Because we don't know whether these champions perform as they intended or outperform their intentions or underperform. It's not like they're telling us or communicating us any of this to us, pretty much. They just drop a final decision, which was like a big point that they were emphasizing. Communication is going to be key with this rebalancing program. Have we had any communication at all whatsoever from Kabam in regards to balancing program, aside from them telling us that we decided not to balance or touch Black Cat and Scorpion at all? Have they asked, the player base or some, anything? I haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that communication coming from them. Within, a couple of weeks, we're going to hear whether they have decided to balance Wong and Rintra. And we have no clue. We have no clue what's, the thought process so far. We're going to only get to hear the final decision. That is not part of what they said about the increased communication. So, I can play this clip a bit further. And there's another important revelation.
It's not that we don't want good stuff to be out there. It's just very hard for us as a a company to introduce new and exciting things when there's something that's so meta dominating. One of the examples that we used to use for ages was Corvus was so dominating in Alliance Quest, where there was no reason to use anybody but Corvus, because even if he wasn't the best option, you could still brute force your way through it, because, you know, you would just never die. And so that was a really big problem for a long time, and it made a lot of our designers be a lot more reserved. And we were kind of scared to release cool stuff, because we were always afraid that if we released something that was too overpowered, it would just be in the game forever, and it would be a problem we would have to deal with for years. And to go back to the Corvus example, the only reason Corvus isn't in that situation anymore is Map 8 doesn't have the timeout cheese, and also Hercules is there, and he's just better Corvus. And so the balance system kind of became this hybrid of we didn't really have the capacity that we used to do the old reworks, but we still wanted to try and release something and still give updates out monthly if we could. But we also wanted to introduce a new system where we could be a little bit more risky with releasing characters. And
so here's the important part. Kabam John just flat out openly states that they do not have the capacity any longer to do what they used to do with the champion buff program. To which I have a very simple question. Why? What happened? So like Malacon's Champions is not making money. If there is a decline in income, which, you know, admittedly they did drop a couple of years kind of like worth in the last year, that's pretty much down due to technical issues or some other issues in the game. But overall, Malacon's Champions still extremely profitable game. So the simple question is, why don't you guys have the capacity to do what you used to do last year? Where did the capacity go? What happened to it? You used to have the capacity to work on these 4 buffs a month, 3 buffs a month, then 2 buffs a month, and then 0.3 buffs a month, which is what you do with Psycho Man. So what happened to that capacity, to that time, to that manpower that was allocated to deal with champion buffs? Why is there no more capacity? If it existed for an entire year last year, and we got many champions buffed, and again, I'm not saying they need to buff 4 champions a month. They went down to 3. 3 was cool. They went down to 2. Still perfectly fine. 2 buffs a month. I think it's perfectly reasonable. And now they're saying they can't do that because they do not have the capacity. And I have a very simple question. Why not? What is happening to the money that this game is making? Where did the capacity go? I think it's a very legitimate, fair, open-ended question. What happened? Where is the capacity? Why could you do it before and you can't do it now? Very simple. If anybody could answer that earnestly, you know, I'm sure entire community would appreciate that. So let me know what you guys think. This interview actually is full with very interesting revelations. I'm going to be uploading another video, and that one's probably going to be a bit spicy as well, because it does in fact turn out that another content creator has already been hired by Kabam, and you know, nobody knew. And we'll get to it later. Either way, let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the